Joining us now to break down the morning's news, and there's a lot of it, is the longtime mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, great to see you this morning.
Very nice to see you.
So I want to ask you about this because of Hillary Clinton in hiding. No one's seen her except for celebrities who are shelling out tens of thousands of dollars to fork over for these big dinners and so forth. I'm going to play the contrarian on this. I think it's a brilliant strategy on her part. She hates talking to the press. We in the press have our feelings hurt because we can't talk to her. She continues to rake in millions of dollars and run all these TV spots in Arizona. Is this a smart strategy for her?
Well, I think it's her only strategy. It's her only strategy because she can't answer very, very difficult questions.
So there's no upside.
And number two, she doesn't really have a program she's going to lay out for America that takes us in a different direction. And 65-70% of the American people believe we're going in the wrong direction. So long as she remains slightly ahead or even, I think she's going to play hide the ball. She can play prevent defense. Now, I always get annoyed when my football team plays prevent defense because that's usually where the other team comes from behind and beats you.
Right. But it's not a very noble strategy.
And I think she's dying by 1,000 cuts. And she doesn't realize it. I think she's bleeding to death. The email stories and the Clinton Foundation stories and the State Department pay-for-play stories would have destroyed a candidate who gets less protection from the press.
But I think
I
think your football analogy is apt because it's the fourth quarter. We only have a few weeks till early voting.
Yeah, but Donald Trump has caught up in most of the polls to either ahead, even, or within the margin of error in enough of the battleground states so that he can win. National poll, Los Angeles Times, he's ahead by 3. A couple of the national polls are very, very tight. And this is with him having spent virtually no money and her spending about $200 million on the air. And his ads just started, 4 days ago.
Right.
So she's eventually, I think, going to get drawn out because eventually I think he's going to take a lead. And she's going to get drawn out. And she's going to have to answer. For example, I read the entire FBI report twice. For some reason, they printed it in a little print.
Yeah, I noticed.
And they put it out late on a Friday afternoon.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, it was hard to read, wasn't it?
Very. But worth it.
Really worth it. And I underlined it. And I've read probably 5,000 FBI 302s, 10,000 in my life as a prosecutor. When she says that she didn't know that it was confidential information because at the beginning of the paragraph there was a C, a capital C. Is she kidding?
Well, she goes on to say
that because she thought it was an alphabetical order. Now, if I were cross-examining, I would say, well, did you ever see an A or a B or a D?
Well, that's a good point. But then she said, but I had a brain injury, so I was incapable of remembering.
We have only two answers to why she doesn't know, why the Secretary of State of the United States doesn't know that a C in front of a paragraph means confidential information. 1, she's stupid, or 2, she's lying. Or possibly 3, her brain injury has made her incompetent. I don't know. I happen to think it's the middle one, but I cannot believe that we had a Secretary of State who doesn't know that if you put a C in front of a paragraph in a sensitive document, that means confidential. She can't remember 26 things like, did she get a briefing on how to handle top secret information? I remember the briefing I got on doing it, and it was 25 or 30 years ago.
But so wait a second, then why aren't questions about her... She seems perfectly healthy, just to be clear, she seems healthy.
I don't know if she's healthy.
But people ask questions, and they're attacked by Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota the other day, for example, as, quote, sexist. And yet she herself said, my health prevented me from digesting and retaining information. So why are these questions not totally valid?
Well, she was Secretary of State at the time. She should have resigned. We had a Secretary of State who couldn't remember whether she had a briefing. Also, her briefing by the CIA on how to handle classified information took place before her so-called brain injury.
Right.
Why can't she remember that? I can remember it. Why can't she remember it? She can't remember her exit interview or whether there was one with the CIA. There always is. You're given an interview and you're told how to forget classified information. 26 different occasions on which she can't remember. Most of them strike me more as lies than they do as things she can't remember. I think it's the liar's retreat. I can't remember, I don't recall, rather than brain injury. but that's my own personal opinion.
Mr. Mayor, when you first started to react to this, you mentioned the small print and that it was just before a holiday weekend, which seems to be the timing of this. Are you questioning the credibility of the FBI's investigation?
It's very strange. A number of these things have been put out on holiday weekends. The interview with her was rushed. When I read it, there are numerous follow-up questions, like that C. The minute she said to me, I didn't know that a C meant confidential information, I would have said, well, had a C one with an A, B, C, and D, because she said she thought it was in alphabetical order. Well, she didn't. And then I would have said, well, what's wrong with you? If you didn't know the basics of classified information, how could you possibly be our Secretary of State? And how could you possibly be our president? She lied completely about having turned over all her emails. She didn't turn over thousands of emails. We're not talking about 3 or 4. We're talking about thousands. She lied completely about the fact that the emails she didn't turn over, she said they didn't contain any confidential or classified information. They're filled with confidential and classified information, including 68 separate documents that are so secret they can't even be revealed now.
But to Anna's question, if
these are massive memory lapses, which I don't think she is massively brain damaged.
But if the FBI,
I do think she's a massive liar.
If the FBI is trying to minimize the effect of those lies, as Anna just asked you, doesn't that mean the system itself, the justice system, is corrupt at a high level, and that's bad?
Well, I think you read that, and as I wrote in an op-ed piece, and having prosecuted or supervised prosecuting 5,000 cases, you can't not prosecute. I mean, that report yells out for a prosecution. I mean, she violated so many laws, obstruction of justice. How about destroying her smartphones using a hammer? Well, these criminals do that. How about using bleach bit? These are the things. These are all the things that in a criminal case, if you're an experienced prosecutor, these are the things you use to prove intent. Somebody threw the gun away.
Right.
Somebody
filed the serial number off.
Somebody in a white collar case. Somebody destroyed the records.
Well, these are the things that Donald Trump has been talking about while Hillary Clinton is not doing press conferences. Donald Trump out in Detroit speaking to African Americans. It's amazing to listen to the liberal press sort of falling over themselves as they watch Donald Trump try to court the black vote. And he's done it a couple of times, and it seems like the liberal press can't stand it. They come out of the woodwork. They get so upset about it. Like, how dare you come in here and talk to black voters?
Sure, we own this vote. I mean, we own this vote. And the reality is they've been criticizing Republicans for 40 years for not reaching out. So you can't win. If you don't reach out, you're a racist. And if you do reach out, you're a racist. The reality is, and here's why I think the speech was so important and historic in many ways. Donald Trump went to the African American community with what I call our solutions, conservative solutions, which is what I did in New York. And I'd like to compare New York to Detroit. When I took over New York in 1994, we had 1.1 million people on welfare. When I left, it was 500,000 people. We had 10.5% unemployment. When I left, we had 5% unemployment. And we had approximately per capita the same kind of murders they have in Chicago, and we went down to something like 500, where we reduced it by 65%. And I utilized all conservative principles. I didn't increase welfare, I didn't increase food stamps, I didn't increase dependency. I made people on welfare work. I incentivized my welfare workers to find work. And I said to people in the poor communities of New York City, which are not all minority, I'm going to restore for you the ladder to success in America, which is a good job and a good education. If I give you those two things, now it's up to you to succeed. And what you've been deprived of by the Democratic Party, the Democratic leadership in all these cities, is both a good education, rotten school systems, and Hillary can't move on that because the teachers union owns her.
Of course, right.
And no jobs because you're taxing so high, nobody has room to build or grow.